So tonight I want to talk about exploring the power of prayer and really dive into how prayer becomes really powerful when we go beyond the words. Since the beginning of time, people of all civilizations have prayed. From prayer beads to prayer wheels, from solemn Gregorian chants to foot-stomping gospel music, from fervent worshipers flogging their backs with ropes to the seeker quietly sitting cross-legged atop a mountain. There are as many ways to pray as there are people who pray. And when human circumstances seem overwhelming, I think we instinctively turn to prayer. There is something so comforting about taking time out to commune with a higher power. The human soul seeks the experience of raising itself to a spiritual level where it can think and feel from a place of connection with God. It's in these heightened moments that give us the strength to go forward and the comfort to ease our sorrows. Prayer in its simplest form is any conscious attempt to experience the presence of God. Prayer is a deliberate activity, one of seeking to recognize our oneness with God, of opening ourselves up to the power of God or the universe or spirit as it moves through us. Ernest Holmes in It's Up to You says, God must be universal mind. God must be the power by which we think, will, and know. Therefore, it follows that prayer to God is communication with that inner life, with the divine indwelling spirit, which is everywhere present, omnipotent, and all-powerful. And just as a separated drop of ocean water eventually makes its way back to the sea, there is always something within us that draws us back into our awareness of the oneness that we share with God. The drop of water might evaporate, might be drawn up into the clouds to be blown by the wind and then fall as snow on the highest mountain peak. But eventually that snow will melt and that drop will become part of the trickle and then a stream and then a river until it finally returns to the stream and then ultimately to the ocean. And so if we could suspend reason for just a moment, it might seem at various points on its journey that that drop may pray to melt or to be a part of the trickle, or it may pray to join a stream or a river. But what it really wants is to find the ocean again. And ultimately, that is where that water ends up going back to, and so it is with us. Our emphasis is always that we are healing through knowing this truth about us, through knowing this connection that indwelling spirit is always present within us. And the reason that we can be healed is that in truth, we are already whole, complete, and perfect. We have faith that with God all things are possible, and that God, as the healing power within everyone, is greater than any appearance of illness or ill fortune. And so we simply look beyond the appearance then to the truth that we are spiritual beings made in God's image. We affirm and claim wholeness as part of our divine birthright. And so this is what I mean about prayer being an inner attitude, not a certain outward posture or position. Prayer makes no demands concerning time or location. Right where you are, your place of work, on the street, in your home, you can pray and you can pray effectively. The presence of God is everywhere at all times. The Spirit of truth is eternally within you. There is no need to beg God for anything because we already have access to all that God is. So prayer becomes a way to express our thanks for life and its blessings, those we already have and those yet to come. This is sometimes referred to as affirmative prayer because it acknowledges the truth that God is present in us and in every situation, and therefore the potential for us is beyond anything that we can humanly imagine. Affirmative prayer is a type of prayer or metaphysical technique that is focused on a positive outcome rather than a negative situation. For example, if a person who is experiencing some form of illness would focus the prayer on the desired state of perfect health and affirm this desired intention as if it had already happened, rather than identifying the illness and then asking God to eliminate it. When most people think of prayer, they think of asking God for something. For example, if we were to pray traditionally, we might say, "Please God, help me find a job." By contrast, an affirmative prayer might be, "I am now guided to my right and perfect employment." The secret here, though, is that if we pray for a job and then complain to others that we don't have one, we are completely undermining our prayer. There's this beautiful tradition that the ancient Aborigine people of Australia have, and it's this unique concept of dream time, which is this ancient time in which the continent of Australia was a formless, pristine expanse, and these enormous, powerful animals roamed over this pristine landscape, bringing its very form into existence. And so bringing every hill, every river, every boulder, and every tree. And red ochre, which is a very sacred element to the Aborigines, is said to have been the blood of these ancient creatures. And so they would dig the ochre out of the earth and paint it on rock surfaces and even apply it to their own skins to capture the essence of these powerful ancestors. But before you were allowed to dig this ochre out of the ground, you had to follow the path of these ancestral animals, and they called this walking the song line. Will Hunt, in this amazing book called Underground, describes this as these song lines are paths marking the trail of a Dreamtime ancestor as they moved across the primordial landscape, bringing this land into existence. And thousands of these song lines crisscross Australia like strings on a violin. And so the song line is a physical path, but at the same time, it's a story recounting the ancestors' sacred journey. It'd be like if the Bible or any sacred text wasn't a book, but a collection of paths on the earth. And instead of reading them, we walked their length, singing out the story and the rhythm and the pace of our walking, matching the rhythm and the pace of the story. And it felt to me like there was a correlation to prayer in all of this. What if we walked our prayers in our day-to-day world? And what if we became the living embodiment of our prayer, not only through our words, but through our feelings, our actions, and how we lived our lives? That prayer would therefore become an opportunity to discover ourselves as individual expressions of the universe. It's not something we do to God or that God does to us. That kind of thinking is based in separation. But it's a thinking that prayer is a self-realization and self-expansion. So once we understand that prayer is an inner attitude, then I think it's really powerful and important to look at the science of prayer. New Thought leaders began asking the question, is it conceivable that prayer could be a science? And if we studied the science of prayer and came to understand the principles involved, would we not then be able to pray consistently and more effectively? Ernest Holmes saw that prayer wasn't only a mystical activity reserved for those who feel inclined to express themselves religiously, but he saw prayer as a normal activity of the mind and the heart of everyone who desires to be a better person, to understand life and living, and to live more richly. In other words, he understood prayer as really those song lines of our lives. Ernest Holmes said, "Effective mental treatment is propelled by a consciousness of love and a realization that the creative spirit is always at work. A treatment should be given in a calm, expectant manner and with a deep inner conviction of its reality, without any fear or any sense that the human mind must make it." And so just to recap our science of mind treatment, we have 5 distinct steps that form the basis of science of mind treatment. The first is recognition, knowing that God is all there is. The second is unification, knowing that we are one with God. There is no separation. 3 is the realization stage, where we state the circumstance that we want to manifest. When we've experienced this deep richness and a deepening as a result of the first 2 steps, then this third step is a declaration of the truth that we've realized. We're not asking for anything. We are declaring and affirming the truth and stating that it is already done. The 4th step is thanksgiving. We express our gratitude for the successful completion of our affirmation. We believe it and we surrender to its unfoldment. And finally, 5 is the release step, and so it is, knowing that the universe or God is unfolding the prayer and allowing it to go. And so again, the prayer or the treatment is not done to change God. It's done to change us, to lift us into the experience of the presence of God in our lives. And so we can create all the affirmations in the world that we want, but we have to really look at our core values and our beliefs. If we say affirmations for increased abundance and prosperity in our life, but hold firm to the belief that there's not enough good to go around, then we will see no change in our financial affairs. Greg Braden has a great video called The 5 Modes of Prayer, and in it, he talks about a study done on prayer. In 1972, 24 U.S. cities were used to conduct an experiment where people were trained and coached to pray, and during that prayer, to feel the feelings of peace in a very specific manner. People were placed in these cities, and in each city that had a population of over 10,000 citizens. During the time that the people were feeling the feelings of peace, beyond them and beyond the buildings that they were physically present in, the communities experienced statistically measurable reductions in crime, violence, and traffic accidents. This led to another study, which is documented in the 1988 Journal of Conflict Resolution, which was called the International Peace Project. In this study, they actually documented a mathematical formula which determined the number of people statistically required to jumpstart this effect of peace. The minimum number was the square root of 1% of a given population. The square root of 1% of a given population. So if we take Denver with a population of 5.6 million, 1% of that would be 56,000, and the square root of that would be about 240 people. This is the threshold number to begin the effect of peace. And interestingly enough, that is almost identical to the number of practitioners that we have here at Mile High Church. In our world of 7 billion people, that number is only 8,400. That's all that is required to feel the feelings of peace in our hearts for peace to be present. So just think about that for a minute. The power of prayer is so profound. And so as we move into prayer tonight, I'm going to start with a quote by Eric Butterworth. Eric Butterworth says, "The universe is calling us to awaken to oneness. The weary pilgrim journeys forth to church, to shrines, or to the meccas of the world in search of God. But you do not have to go to a church or any sacred place to get close to God. There is nowhere in the world where you can get any closer to God than right where you are. God is present in His entirety within you. No one can be any closer to God than you." And so as we take a deep breath and move into that space beyond words, that space of our heart, we just allow ourselves to recognize that there is a power and presence, a divine energy that is always present. And when I imagine just the glorious Rocky Mountains that we experience here in Colorado, I see the magnificence of the presence of God in the snow-capped peaks, in the majesty of the forests. And I allow myself to just unify with that, to know that that same energy that created those mountains is always moving in, through, and around me in every moment, that there is no separation, there is only oneness. And so with every breath I take, I move into that powerful space of connection with the divine, feeling that infusion of creative intelligence, of divine source, infusing every cell of my body, knowing that I am an amazing emanation of spirit. I know this for every person on this planet. We are all connected in that one heart, in that one mind. And as we feel the feelings of peace and move beyond our outer circumstances and situations, we simply allow ourselves to remember the truth that all is God, the truth that all is well, the truth that there is unlimited potential and abundance and good always flowing to each and every one of us. And so we become the walking song lines of our prayer, moving through our lives, our day-to-day activities, infused with this powerful indwelling presence of spirit. And in this space of divine recognition and unification, I give great thanks. Great thanks for all the many blessings in our lives. Great thanks for that powerful presence of God. And I know that as I release these truths into that beautiful alchemy of love and law, that all is well, because all is God. And so it is. Amen.